The sun peeked over manicured lawns. Birds chirped a cheerful tune. It was a picture-perfect morning in the suburbs. Sarah poured her coffee, the aroma filling her kitchen. She glanced out the window. Everything seemed peaceful. Too peaceful. A nagging feeling tugged at the edge of her mind. Something wasn't right. She couldn't shake off the sense of unease that had been growing since yesterday. The unexpected arrival of that strange package had disrupted their usual tranquility. It was a plain black box left on their doorstep with no return address. The box was unassuming, yet its presence was unsettling. The porch light flickered, casting eerie shadows on the box, making it seem almost alive in the dim light. Just their names scrawled on top in messy handwriting. The letters were jagged, almost as if written in haste or anger. The ink was smudged, adding to the mystery of who could have left it there and why. Mark, her husband, had dismissed it as a prank. He laughed it off, saying it was probably some neighborhood kids trying to spook them. He didn't believe in such things and thought it was all in good fun. But Sarah couldn't shake off the feeling that it was something more sinister. She felt a cold chill run down her spine every time she looked at the box. Her intuition screamed that this was no ordinary prank. Inside the box, they found a single sheet of paper. The paper was old, yellowed at the edges, and it crackled as they unfolded it. The anticipation was palpable, and Sarah's hands trembled slightly. It contained a chilling message: "Your deepest fears will find you." The words were written in the same messy handwriting, but this time they seemed to leap off the page, embedding themselves into Sarah's mind. The words sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. She felt a wave of dread wash over her, as if the message was a dark prophecy. Her mind raced with thoughts of what it could mean and who could have sent it. It felt like a threat, a promise of something terrible to come. The room seemed to grow colder, and the shadows in the corners deepened. Sarah knew that this was just the beginning of something much larger and more terrifying. She couldn't help but feel that their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't even begin to imagine. Sarah's phone buzzed. It was a text from Mark, stuck in traffic on his way back from a business trip.
Almost home, it read.
She wished he would hurry. Being alone in the house felt suffocating. Every creak and groan of the old house amplified her fear. Then the phone rang. An unknown number. Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. She picked up cautiously.
A distorted voice whispered on the other end, "He can't save you." The line went dead. Sarah's blood ran cold.
Mark's hands gripped the steering wheel. He was miles away, stuck in gridlock traffic. His phone call with Sarah had been cut short. Her terrified whispers echoed in his ears. He had brushed off her concerns about the box as paranoia. Now, a knot of dread tightened in his stomach.
He had to get home. He pushed his way through the traffic, ignoring honking horns and angry shouts. Each passing minute felt like an eternity. Fear gnawed at him, fueling his desperate drive.
Sarah stood frozen in her living room. The grandfather clock chimed 4 times, its resonating clang seeming to mock the silence that followed. Her gaze was fixed on the front door. A shadow flickered past the frosted glass pane. Someone was outside, watching. Her breath caught in her throat. She crept towards the door, every instinct screaming at her to run. Peeking through the peephole, she saw nothing, but the feeling of being watched intensified. They were out there, closer than before. Section 6, Trapped Within. The house felt different now. It was as if the very walls were closing in, suffocating her with their oppressive silence. The air was thick with a palpable sense of dread. Each breath she took felt heavy, laden with an unspoken fear that seemed to seep into her very bones. Every shadow seemed to writhe, every corner held a lurking fear. The darkness was alive, moving and shifting, playing tricks on her mind. Sarah felt a presence, unseen but palpable, closing in on her. She was trapped, The walls seemed to whisper her name, mocking her futile attempts to find solace. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape, a weapon, anything. The room seemed to stretch and contract, distorting her sense of reality. The black box sat on the coffee table, a stark reminder of the threat hanging over them. It was an enigma, a puzzle she couldn't solve, yet it held the key to her freedom. It felt like the source of her terror, pulsating with a dark energy. The box seemed to hum with a life of its own, its dark aura spreading through the room like a malignant force. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, a drumbeat of fear and determination. She knew she had to confront whatever was inside the box, but the thought filled her with dread. Her hand trembled as she reached out towards the box. The air around it seemed to vibrate, a tangible force pushing against her. She remembered the day she found the box tucked away in the attic. It had seemed innocuous then, a relic of the past, but now it was a harbinger of doom. As she opened the box, a bright light emanated from within, blinding her momentarily. She felt a surge of energy, a connection to something ancient and powerful. Her face was illuminated by the light, a mix of fear and awe. She could feel the presence more strongly now, a malevolent force that seemed to be watching her every move. The room began to shake, objects moving on their own. The air was filled with a low, menacing hum, growing louder with each passing second. Despite the chaos around her, Sarah stood her ground. Determination burned in her eyes. She knew she had to face this terror head-on, for there was no other way out. The box's light pulsated rhythmically, matching the beat of her heart. It was as if the box was alive, responding to her presence. Taking a deep breath, Sarah steeled herself for what was to come. She knew that whatever lay ahead, she had to confront it with courage and resolve. As the light from the box began to dim, the room returned to an eerie stillness. The sense of dread lingered, but Sarah felt a newfound strength within her. With a determined look on her face, Sarah closed the box. She knew the battle was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever came next. Outside, the house stood silent and foreboding, a testament to the darkness within. But Sarah was no longer trapped. She had found her strength, and she was ready to fight. Section 7, the box's true nature. Mark burst through the front door, his heart pounding. He found Sarah huddled in a corner, her eyes wide with terror.
It's the box. It feeds on our fear.
He looked at the box. It seemed to pulsate with an unnatural light. A wave of understanding washed over him. The box wasn't a curse or a threat. It was a mirror, reflecting and amplifying their deepest fears. Section 8, Confronting the Darkness. Mark took Sarah's hand.
We won't let it control us.
His voice was firm despite the tremor in his chest. They stared at the box, a silent agreement passing between them. They would not be puppets to their fear. They walked towards the box, each step filled with a newfound determination. As they drew closer, the oppressive atmosphere began to lift. The shadows seemed to recede, the air becoming lighter. Section 9. A respite, not a resolution. The box sat inert on the table, its power seemingly diminished. It was a small, unassuming object, yet it had held such a grip on their lives. The once menacing aura that surrounded it had faded, leaving behind an ordinary-looking box, but they knew better than to be deceived by its appearance. The house was quiet again, the air no longer thick with dread. The oppressive atmosphere that had once filled every corner of their home had lifted, replaced by a tentative peace. The soft light of dusk filtered through the windows, casting gentle shadows that danced across the walls. It was a stark contrast to the darkness they had endured. They had faced their fears, and in doing so had taken away its power. For now. Their embrace was a mixture of relief and exhaustion, a silent acknowledgement of the battle they had fought together. They had confronted the unknown, and in that confrontation they had found strength they didn't know they possessed. But deep down they understood that this was only a temporary reprieve. As they embraced, a single sheet of paper slid out from under the box. It moved almost imperceptibly, as if guided by an unseen hand. The sight of it sent a shiver down their spines, a stark reminder that their ordeal was not entirely over. The paper seemed to carry with it a weight, an unspoken message that demanded their attention. A single line was scrawled on it: "Fear is always waiting." The handwriting was jagged and hurried, as if written in a moment of panic. The words themselves were simple, yet they carried a profound truth. Fear, in all its forms, was a constant presence lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. The words hung in the air, a chilling reminder that their ordeal might be over, but the box and the fear it represented remained. It was a sobering thought, one that tempered their relief with a sense of caution. They knew that they could not let their guard down, that vigilance was necessary to keep the darkness at bay. The box was a symbol of their struggle, a reminder that while they had won this battle, the war against fear was far from over.